Phobias. Those are fears. Many people have them. The question is, what causes a phobia? Joining us, of course, is my husband. You'll hear him, and he's going to help shed some light on this topic to let us know what causes phobias. Honey?
Yes.
The question.
I was thinking about what you said. So it's a question that's out there, right?
Yes, it's a question that's out there.
Okay. What is it again? What causes phobias?
Causes phobias?
Okay, I thought what you were saying, that's why I got quiet, because you said many people have them. I think everybody has phobia, some fear of some kind. They might not show it, but they do have phobia. So, as you said, phobia is a fear.
Right.
From your experience, what causes phobia?
Past life experiences causes phobia, at least for me.
From what you know now, right?
Yes.
In the past, what would you think would have caused phobia?
I thought it was just a mental disorder.
Okay.
Because that's what I was taught in school. Phobias are mental disorders. People just develop fears of things for unknown reasons.
Ah, okay.
Like arachnophobia, fear of spiders, or arachnids.
And like fear of heights. And
Claustrophobia, which I've never been classified as having claustrophobia, but I don't like confined spaces. I don't like anything around my neck and
you don't
face.
have claustrophobia.
I don't.
No, nobody has claustrophobia. It's
Okay.
a condition.
It's a condition. Well,
somebody might be considered claustrophobic.
okay.
Right? But
I might be claustrophobic then, based on
I don't
that.
know about
But
that.
it's lessened since I've started doing more work as far as learning more about my past and getting rid of things.
Okay. All right. So then, what really causes phobias? And we're taking the perspective that we know about, right?
Yes.
We don't want to be talking about something that we're not sure about.
Correct.
Well, do you have any examples? For example, to me, the best way to explain something is to give examples. To me, that makes more sense than talking theoretically. Do you have any examples of maybe where a past life has helped, whether you know a situation, whether it's yours, mine, somebody else's?
Well, I don't know the names of phobias, but
You don't have to know names.
I know
Don't
that
get technical. Just
for myself,
Tell the story.
a big fear I had was of murky water. You know, it's gotten a whole lot better, but I used to be afraid of any murky water. I did not want to go in it, didn't want to go near it. Just keep me away. If I could not see the bottom of the water, I just wouldn't go in there. And that was shown to me that that's because I had been kidnapped in a previous life, and they'd just throw me into bodies of water and see what would happen to me. And most of the water was these murky waters.
you might want to have some energy when you talk. You're putting me to sleep.
Sorry, I'm just giving
I
a
almost
story.
snored just now. Just come on, wake up. So anyway, so that's what. But then you said that you still have the phobia, or the phobia is still there. Okay.
It's a whole lot better.
So how did that help? You knowing. So I thought that once something was shown to you, then normally somebody gets over the phobia.
Right, you told me that before, and I've never experienced that. But you did. You have a story that you could share about a friend of yours who was afraid of water.
Oh, that's right. We've talked about this on a different video. So.
We have.
Well, there's one that I can tell. We won't say the name, but this is. I like recent stories, right? How about that? To me, that makes more sense than. Well, that story is from way back. That's years ago. That's like when I was 2 years old. And I'm now 507. So.
Yes, at least he's not as old as Jesus now. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I know that we had one situation with an individual that. Oh, we have a lot. We actually have a whole bunch.
Well, you know them
think
better
about
than I do.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch. Let me say one about myself. I remember when I was younger, I used to have this feeling. I always had this feeling that one day I would be in a car, right? I always saw myself in a car, and then another car driving up in the other lane to my right. No, actually, on my left. That I would be in the right lane, and they would pull up on the left lane, and the person in the passenger seat would pull out a gun and just shoot me right in the temple. I just point blank put the hand out. By the time I looked, bang, just shot me right in the temple. That was it. I was dead. And I don't know if I had a fear of dying that way. I just kept thinking, when is this going to happen? I just figured it was going to happen. Until I was shown that in a previous life, I was assassinated that way.
Oh.
And then I realized, that ever since then, I've never really expected it to happen. I never thought about it, but in the past, if I were in traffic in a car, another car drove up, I'd always look and expect to see someone pointing a gun at me.
Interesting.
Did I ever tell you that?
I don't recall that story.
Oh, okay. There might be more I haven't told you.
I'm sure there are.
Again, so that would make me, let's say it's a phobia, every time a car would pull up, I'd look. But it was because of a previous environment. And the thing about previous environment or past lives is that people misunderstand them. People think that when they see something like myself that happened, you think that it's a prophecy, that it's about to happen. And so then you expect it to happen, right?
Right.
And if you don't know the difference, then of course you start to panic. It becomes a phobia for you. And in many cases, it's just something that's happened in the past, and it's meant to be a lesson for you now, or you're being shown something that you've balanced. As in, okay, you've taken care of this. You'll never go through this again. It happened once, and that's it. You're done with it. So it's important to understand whether it's guidance for you, whether it's a lesson, having you understand that, okay, this is for you to learn something from, or this happened to you in the past, but you balanced it so it won't affect you anymore, or it could be a warning. Okay, now, just because, let's say for example, you're shown that you got into a car accident. That doesn't mean that it's a given. All right? We've always said many times that God gives each one of us a free will. And I hear this statement, people make this statement all the time, that we're destined, right? Our life is destined.
Right.
Well, if our life is destined, then how does that show free will?
It doesn't.
Got it? And that's
everything's already laid out, and you're just going through the motions, and you have no free will.
And that's why there's a flaw to that. Because pretty much what that is saying is, God created us, put us on earth, and we're pretty much puppets. We're just doing what God wants, right?
Right.
Unless if we decide to rebel, then we're not doing what God wants. So we understand that because of free will, we can change things. We co-create with God. So something happens, we can decide, I don't like the way this looks. I'm going to change this. That's very important to understand. All right, we're not victims and we're not helpless. And that's why we're shown things. If we're shown, car accident, so then change it. So you don't have a car accident. That doesn't mean that it's absolute that there'll be a car accident. You can change that. That's why they show it to you. Normally, if you're shown something, it's because the ascended masters, the angels, God, whatever term you use, all right, divine being, a universal force, whatever you call it, they already know that you can handle it. Otherwise, they wouldn't show you the situation. So if you start to panic, then you probably won't be showing anything again. Because okay, that person's going to panic, is going to panic, so let's not do that. Because nobody wants anybody to panic.
Right.
You're supposed to take it and do something with it, do something good with it. So anyway, why do I spend so much time on that? That's what a phobia is. We start to panic. We don't understand that it's something we can change. No matter what it is. If we're afraid of fire, for example, more than likely it's for a previous embodiment.
Or afraid of heights. It's a
Exactly.
very common one.
Exactly, all right? Now, what type of previous embodiment? Couldn't tell you, because each person's experience is different. It's not like if somebody's afraid of heights, that means everybody had the same experience. Like maybe they fell off a tall building. That's not how it works, right?
Right.
Each person's karma is different. So something happened that made that person become afraid of heights. But until we deal with that person's situation, we don't know what that is. All right? We've seen the YouTube video, which we've watched with our kids, about the one little boy, he was about 5 years old, that talked about how he died in a fire in Chicago in this tall building. Remember that story? And then,
Very vaguely.
and then his parents, they were just like, what do you mean? And he kept saying his name, but his name was a female name. And then when they asked him where he lived in the west side of Chicago, and it's a neighborhood that was not a very good neighborhood. And then they finally did research on it and found out that it was an African American woman, but this was a Caucasian family with a Caucasian son. Right? And they started asking more questions, and he could tell them exactly where the building was, what it looked like, how he died, that he tried to jump out the window because the building was on fire and he was on maybe the third or fourth floor. And they started looking up articles, they found the articles, and sure enough, that's how she died. Alright? So, for people that don't believe in re-embodiment and say that it's nonsense, just go to YouTube and just do a search for
Past lives.
Past lives, right? That's what they call it, right? Past lives.
Kids who remember their past lives.
And you'll see many stories, many stories.
Or people who remember their past lives, right?
You'll see many stories of people that have had this experience where they've been through something traumatic. Like one kid that remembered, he just loved World War II things, like planes and anything that had to do with World War II. Then he told his parents that he was a soldier in World War II. He gave them the name, they looked it up, and sure enough, he died in World War II. And then he went and met his wife or something, who was way old.
His family, right?
It was the funniest story, because here's this little kid, and it's like, yeah, you're my wife. And she's like old, But again, that's the opposite of phobia. Instead, he fell in love with the thing that he was involved with when he died.
Right.
So see, you could become afraid of it, or you could fall in love with it. The one child that got burnt, that died in the fire, I don't think he was afraid of fire. He just remembered dying in a fire and remember who he was.
Right.
So I bring these stories up not to talk about phobias, but to talk about how if you've lived before. All of us, we've lived before. And because of that, as long as we've lived before, once you accept that, then it's easy to accept that if you've lived before, something must have happened in that previous life that's affecting you now. And it just so happens that whatever that situation is, you've interpreted it as a bad thing. If that's all it is, you interpret it as a good thing or a bad thing, as you've always said, matter of perspective.
Indeed. Because I know there was an embodiment that you were shown, where I was locked in really small rooms and in closets, dark places with no light.
That's right.
And from when I was a kid, in this life, I've always been afraid of the dark. Always had to have a light on when I would go to sleep, or a bunch of night lights around me. I could never sleep just in the dark. But once this came out...
When you were a kid, even when you were married, you didn't sleep.
I know.
I had to sleep with lights on.
Yes.
I couldn't even sleep with lights on. I could hardly sleep because you have to have lights on.
Yes, we got married and we had night lights in our bedroom.
Lights.
Even when we go to a hotel, there may not be a night light there, but that bathroom door was open with the light on.
Yeah, that is true.
But once it was revealed that that's what took place and that's what had happened to me, since then I've gotten better and I don't have to have lights on.
That is true. You walk around in the dark.
I do.
So that's one where it's pretty much gone. And
yes.
That's one of those instances. Yeah, that's a good example, because you are terrified of the dark.
Yes.
Yeesh. That was amazing. I forgot about that, about how I had to sleep with. Well, I couldn't sleep. I was looking at the ceiling pretty much all night because lights were on.
Indeed.
What else? What other stories do we have for that?
I'm drawing.
Well, I don't like being around people.
Oh, right. And that goes back to when you were a
Tell that
champion
one.
chess player. So my husband and I had these dreams. He had his way before I had mine, but in my dream of showing me a past life of ours, I was maybe about 12, 13 years old, and in a Russian village. And my family lived in this 2 or 3 flat building, and I went to the apartment to get some things like food and clothing because I had to take it to this kid that I was hiding. And all of my family members were there, and everybody was talking about trying to find this kid. They had to find this kid. He was a chess champion, a prodigy, and everybody was looking for him. So I just gathered what I needed to, and I left the apartment, and I ran down to the riverbank to where I hid this boy near a tree and under the bridge area. Well, my husband told me that's interesting because I had a dream a long time ago. He said, and a young girl about that same age hid me so that I wouldn't have to, so I could get away from the crowds and I wouldn't have to be around all the people, and she was going to help me escape. And it turned out that we were being shown one of our past lives because all the details matched up.
And I was 5 years old, and you were 12.
And I was 12.
But, see, that would explain why I don't like being around individuals.
And why you're so good at chess.
Well, that too. But the point is that I don't like that attention from people. You know,
Right.
I'd rather be by myself. You know, when there are too many people around, I just start to feel uncomfortable, and that comes from that. Now it doesn't affect me as much now. I can be around people now, right? But I remember there's a time I don't want to be around people at all. So as soon as they come, I leave. That's just the way it was. So that comes from me hiding and people trying to force me to do something I didn't want to do back then because they felt that, I guess, whatever I did was benefiting them. So that's another good example of where once you understand the past life, then that fear that you have goes away. You know, it normally goes away. In your case with the murky water, it hasn't, which then tells me that there's still probably another incident somewhere.
Right.
We might have to look. We'll have to look into that so we can get that done with.
Yes.
You know? But the story you're talking about one of my friends that's Miss Rose's wife. You know, where she was just terrified of water. She wouldn't go swimming like in the lake in Chicago. She wouldn't, just no pools, nothing. Just terrified of water. Until one day I had this dream where the three of us, her husband, herself, and myself, were running away. We got away from this village where we were being held captive. And we were running, and these guys were on horses and they were chasing us, right? And as we left it, you know, it was those towns that have those built fences. Like, so we got out of the fenced area for the town, the city, and also we got into this, there was like this big body of water we had to cross. And her husband crossed, and I was about halfway, and then I looked back, and then there she was, literally drowning because I realized she couldn't swim. So I went back to try to get her, but then she drowned. And I told her about that dream. And after I told her about the dream, she said, wow, that explains why I'm afraid of water. Because, of course, she knew about she studied the teachings, and she understood about previous embodiment experiences. And after that, she was fine. You know, she would go into pools and she would swim. It was no longer an issue. Once she understood why she was the way she was fine.
Okay.
You know?
I think we've covered this topic on phobias. So, share with us your story. If you had a similar situation to that where you were afraid of something and then you had a dream about it and then you weren't afraid anymore, that would be something great to put in our Facebook group. Share it on Clearing, Healing, and Guidance. Go to our YouTube channel or Instagram or our website, 190vision.com.
Or maybe they have a fear that they want to get over now.
Oh yes, and if you do, let us know.
I don't mean an affair. I mean
fear.
A phobia, right?
A phobia that you want to get rid of. And if you do, contact us. Let us know.
And we'll see how we can help them, not us, but the angels, help them take care of that. Because it's not something that's hard to do. You know, and they'll be told what it is, and things will be better for them.
Okay. Thanks for watching.